And now we have a special roundtable interview for you tonight. We're glad to have you with us. Again, my name is David Zublick. We have Brice Watson from Esoteric Atlanta with us. We have Anna Marins, or is it Marins or Marins?
It's Marins.
Marins. Okay,
Marins.
Anna
Yes.
Marins and Tom Numbers. All right, so we're glad to have all three of these wonderful guests with us. Brice Watson of Esoteric Atlanta, who we have on every Tuesday on our program, Dark Outpost, is going to be conducting an interview, and we are going to chime in, and we're going to have an interesting discussion on Gematria. So, Brice, take it away, please.
I'm so excited to be here again. Thank you, David. It's always fun to be on your show. And I have my two other friends here, Anna and Tom, and I'm glad to introduce them to David and to your audience because Gematria is truly fascinating. And what Tom can do is he's a savant. Like he's able to just look at these numbers, and it's a way for God or divinity to talk to us in a very different way. And so Tom has Psych.Club on YouTube. So, and I will tell you guys, I've watched Tom's work over and over and over again. The more I watch him work, the more it starts to like make sense, these numbers. And it's such a positive way. I saw Tom say to another person the other day that we can see the divinity within everything when we look at these numbers. And Anna also has a YouTube channel as well. She's down in Brazil. Tom's over in the United Kingdom, and Anna is over in Brazil, where she hosts interviews as well. And so for anybody who's Portuguese or in Brazil, she has a lot of her stuff in Portuguese. But I'm going to actually hand it over to Tom because Tom is the genius of the hour here. And Tom, I think it'd be awesome if you can kind of explain to David's audience a little bit about Gematria, just the basic information and how you stumbled upon it, because it's all, his story is so fascinating.
Well, thank you, Brice. You're making me blush with all of that. But thanks. Again, thanks, David, and thanks, Anna. So, Gematria. When I discovered this, I guess I'd heard the word Gematria, but it wasn't the first thing I kind of came across. I just started to listen to President Trump every day when we got, when the New World thing started to go on. And at the beginning of March, the flight bans and the lockdowns, and President Trump was on YouTube every day. I guess he was on television in the States every day. But I could watch it here in London, and I just listened to him. And I've always liked President Trump. I've always been a fan. I didn't really follow the whole previous, I guess, 3.5 years prior. But I knew he was getting flack, and it always surprised me. But I just started to listen to his voice, and the world had changed very quickly, and I just sensed intrinsically that President Trump had it. We had the Don in charge, and everything was going to be fine. I just knew that right from the start. But I started to listen to him, and I started to notice patterns. I started to notice that he would say things and missay things and then repeat the correct version a few seconds later. I realized, as other people did, that his tweets were sometimes misspelt, sometimes they were capitalized. And I started to just follow my nose, really. I was like, right, the world has changed. We've got to figure this out. And I remember Boris Johnson, actually, our Prime Minister here, said something very early when he was put into quarantine. And he was sent to his room for, 2 weeks, and or wherever he was. And he said, the key to the coronavirus puzzle is staying indoors. And I was like, he's just told us it's a puzzle and there's a key to it. And I was like, right, okay. That means, to me, that sounded like research. You can either just watch TV and just kind of dumb your life away, or you can try and figure things out. So I started to research, which I was kind of doing anyway, but I heard him say that. I was like, right, this is a puzzle. This is something that's got to be figured out. They're not telling us the truth. I knew that intrinsically. I've always known things weren't the case. But then when this one came up, I was like, right, this is a big one. And I stumbled across, I felt prompted to look up Lady Diana's funeral time, her service. And I noticed that it was 9:08 in the morning. And I thought, that's a strange time to start anything. So what I did is I added the two numbers together. 9 plus 8 came to 17. I was like, okay. I was like, that's Q. And I hadn't really heard of Q. Maybe I'd heard of it, but hadn't taken notice. Maybe a year or two before, but I wasn't aware of it. But then I figured that out, and I also figured out that JFK or JFK Jr.'s, I've seen different descriptions online of it. I thought it was JFK Jr.'s plot with the kind of big aerial circle and the Q. People have said it's JFK's, whichever one it is. And I realised, oh, that's a Q. And I realised that Lady Diana's burial plot in all thought was on an island. It was circular with a squiggly path, and also not far from me in Hyde Park, her memorial kind of water feature is an ellipse with a path going through it. It makes it look like a Q as well. And I was like, right, okay. And then I found a clip with Princess Diana, JFK Jr., and how they were meeting in Manhattan. And it wasn't long. It was maybe less than 2 minutes long. This clip, this news clip from 20 plus years ago, and they mentioned Trump Tower in it as well. And I was like, right, there's 3 key players on the board now, and they're all connecting. And then I just started to study more and more. I found the Q drops and started to look at those, and I started to realize that President Trump was talking in code through numbers. And then I realized months later that it was called Gematria, but I was already starting to figure stuff out. And I have to give all the credit to the president, because it was all coming from his voice, really. There's something magical and higher dimensional about President Trump and his voice and his family. I met Ivanka Trump in 2015 in New York, in Manhattan. Of all the millions of people I could have bumped into, I bump into her. I get a nice photograph with her. And she had this aura when I met her as well, something just kind of magical and almost off-world in some ways. Light, yeah, just something. I mean, I've met I know many, famous people from sport and film and TV, and I've met lots of them, and I'm very comfortable around them. But I just felt it was just a special moment.
Yes,
it was just a special moment to be and meet Ivanka, and that's really how my numbers started going on. I did have an experience where I actually in 2015, I should mention this. I mentioned it I think for David's audience. In 2015, I went to Manhattan. I met Ivanka Trump serendipitously, but prior to that, my cousin Paul Bushnell had passed. He died literally about a week before, and the funeral was delayed because they just had to do autopsies and things. And so I had this trip planned to America. I actually did write to President Trump's office prior to me going there, prior to my cousin passing, because I was going to a soccer fundraiser. For those people that are listening, if they're into soccer, people like Peter Schmeichel were there, Raul, the Real Madrid ex-star. Gus Poyet is a good friend of mine now. Robbie Fowler of Liverpool were there. So they were all these players in New York doing this fundraiser. And it was my first time to New York, and I was like, I know President Trump likes sports, and I've always been a fan. I'd love to meet President Trump and Ivanka and some of the more of the family. So I wrote to his office. He couldn't unfortunately come because him and Don Jr. were out in Scotland that week. I should mention Scotland comes to 88, which equals Trump, which I'll talk about in a second, but it's coming to my mind, so I'll mention it. But I got a really professional, quick reply from his office, which just kind of dovetailed with, always with the kind of impression I've had of him and his family. But I did, luckily, well, maybe on purpose, subconsciously, meet Ivanka Trump the next day. But what had happened with my cousin Paul passing, a few days after I met Ivanka, I was in Manhattan for 6 days. I'd never been there. And I went to the Statue of Liberty, took the ferry one afternoon. And I met a Colombian girl, and her family. And we just kind of hung out for a couple of hours on the boat and on the island. And her birthday actually was January 18th. It was 1/18, which was the same date of birth as my cousin Paul that had passed. And then a night or two later, I took from the same ferry point, I went to Staten Island, and I met another girl and her friend, and we just kind of hung out on the ferry. It was very quiet at night. There was hardly anyone there, and we hung out for a few hours and went across to Staten Island, hung out for a bit, and came back again. But again, her birthday was the same date. And then,
wow.
Yeah, and then when I left Manhattan and I went to other parts of the US. But literally, I think about a day after that is when President Trump announced his presidency. So I was in the US for a few more weeks. Then I came back to England, and then I actually went on a date, like a date with a girl in England, and her date of birth was the same. It was 18th of January, 118 again, and I was like, hang on, Paul's just died. His birthday is the same date of birth as these three girls that I've met in the last month, and I'd maybe, I don't know, spoken to, 7 to 10 girls during that month, and I was like, the three that I've actually kind of spent time with, they all have the same date of birth as my cousin who's just died. So that caught my attention, and I only really kind of figured it out when I got back home and met the third girl. But prior to that, Christopher Nolan released a film, Interstellar, which a lot of people will know, and he has a beautiful scene towards the end of the film where he's given an example of 5-dimensional communication through a bookcase. It's not spoiling it for anyone, but they're talking through the bookcase, and I remember that film, and then my experience with the three girls and meeting Ivanka. I'm in New York, and my cousin Paul has passed, and I understood that was my cousin Paul
Talking to you.
Yeah, he was getting my attention and saying, "I'm okay, Tom." The other thing about 118 was we're going to the Gematria. 118 comes to the storm. It also comes to the silver. It also comes to the blackout. It's a very important number on the board. But I didn't know this at the time. I just realized it was my cousin Paul saying, "Hey, I'm still around," and I've had other experiences with him clearing it since then. But that was my first taste of it. So 2015 was my first taste of it, and then when we got into 2020 and the world flipped upside down, that's when it kind of escalated it, 100,000 times more, and just the serendipities were just off the scale, and then I get orbs appearing in my videos and all sorts of stuff. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, how this began. Brice, you asked how it all started, so that's really how it did start. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Brice?
Well, so we've talked on my channel, we've talked a bit about what Gematria is. And basically, as Tom teaches people, you have the alphabet, the English alphabet, A to Z, and every letter has a number value. So A it's easy. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, going all the way to Z. And so that means that every word, the spelling of the word holds a numerical value. And a lot of these words that look totally different, like the storm, blackout, silver, are 3 different phrases or words, but they all come to 118. And so there's a power behind that. And when I first met Tom, I think
the Matrix as well, Brice, I forgot to say, same one, 118, the Matrix as well, which is the dissolving of this, what we're, old world into the new world. Sorry, continue, yeah.
No, and I loved how you said it was like 5-dimensional conversation. And I just looking at, somebody said with Twitter, like when President Trump is on Twitter, that's like his presidential podium where he's communicating to us more so than any other president because of the situation Trump was in. But that gave him an opportunity too to put letters in all capitals or misspell things. So Tom picked up on something that a lot of us did not, that he was communicating almost a different message than what we were actually hearing. Does that make sense, Tom? Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. I think other people would have noticed the gematria of it, but I didn't know gematria. I guess it was all just kind of self-learnt and self-downloaded. I mean, download comes to the word 88, which is Trump again, as the way you've described it, 1 to 26, A to Z. And then I figured out things like, there is a gematria website that you can look up and type and get a whole bunch of random words you can. So I realized that months later. So it was just coming to me as it did, find Diana, 17, JFK, Trump, the tweets, and figuring out the numbering and the letter system. Yeah.
And I'll say something wild. My first time I met Tom, he did my first name Brice in the number value, which is the same number value as India. And I spent a good portion of my year before this all happened in India. So it's almost like when you're, and I haven't had children. I know David has children, but like when my sister had her kids, there's a lot of thought coming into a name, but it's almost like there's this like moment of like giving a child a name, which you look at President Trump and the numbers of it's very God-centered, that there's a path and a communication that's happening, which is so fascinating to me because I am math is not my strong suit, so I am blown away by how magical this actually is. And Gematria does come from a Jewish heritage through like the Hebrew Bible, right? There's like, they wrote the Hebrew Bible in Gematria as well, I believe. I might be incorrect in saying that, but I believe there's something there with the original Bible through the Christian.
There are other versions of it, like Hebrew and English. The one that I use, and the one that I see President Trump, I think President Trump uses the others as well, but I've not figured out how the other ones work. I just know that A equals 1 and Z equals 26 and all the way through. And it's called simple gematria, but I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's simple, but it's probably the most elegant and best one, because I hear him do it all the time. And the interesting thing about it is the word simple comes to 74, which comes to Jesus. It comes to Messiah, comes to Muhammad, comes to London, the city that I'm in. President Trump is actually age 74 right now. He came from a line of Christs. So if you look at his father's middle name, Frederick Christ Trump, his grandmother's name had Christ in her name, and also the great-grandparent. So he came from a line of Christ. It might have been too obvious to call Donald Christ Trump when he's running for, but it's not too far down. You look at his father, his grandmother, and then the other great-grandparent. So you've got that going on, but then also the word gematria comes to 74 as well. So it's two 74s or two Jesuses, and when you add them together, it comes to 148. 148 comes to Donald J. Trump.
Wow.
So it's all there, you just start to tap on it, the bookcase, you start to scratch the surface, and you just see this all happen. Like with you, Brice. Brice is 37 and India, and I didn't know that, but it just, boom, there it came, So it is really magical.
May I jump in?
Amazing.
May I jump in just a second, Tom?
Yes, Anna, please do.
It is said, it is very well commented that we have our mission and our everything that we have to do in this life is encrypted in our name, our first name and middle name, and even on the name that we will have in a case that if we get the marriage. So it's now
That's a big question, Anna. If
exactly
the marriage, that's a big question.
Yeah, but a year ago, when my journey started checking on Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, it was as Tom said, he has not only the numbers, okay, but he has all the acting, he knows how to use the camera in his favor. So he's a person who, when he's acting, he's not acting for the camera. He's playing a much different role in this mission, okay? He's not only the president, he's a commander-in-chief. So we have to translate this in numbers to get the decodes over commander-in-chief, not only of his name, that is his personal mission, but the mission that he has for the world right now. And us, the called ones, I don't know, I include myself on this group as the called, as 107 created his last movie. We had this inside of us. We all know this information, but we have to be pushed and to be like trigger. We need a trigger to move along with the play. Okay, so because we are not only watching a movie, we are acting in a movie that we don't know exactly how it will be the end. We know we are not far from the end right now, but it's as he said, he's always saying, he's not keeping in secret anymore. Nothing. That's the most beautiful thing that I see in a president, that he communicates. He serves his people, and when he communicates, he does the path. We just have to follow and to be like, because I'm in Brazil. I consider myself working in the same stage. We don't have this country differences right now. We are all in a situation that we don't know how is it going to be the next day. So pay attention. It's the only thing that we have to do. And go home, like, and check the information that is coming to you. That's
Well,
how.
well, we can kind of. There is some clues, like not giving any, like, we're not putting any dates or any stamping anything. But you brought up something on another interview about March the 4th, right, Tom? And like the stock market, and there was some numbers there happening as well. Do you want to elaborate on that? Because I just
can elaborate on that. Sure. So,
another interruption. I'm sorry, David. I do a lot of interruptions all the time.
That's okay.
David's audience, from now on, you will see the numbers everywhere. Okay, be sure of that. That's how I am.
Oh, yeah. This is like something, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
I see it. And the numbers, yes, it's your guide. You're being guided. So follow it. Trust it.
It's the way of God talking to you. And through Tom, like Tom, one thing I love about Tom and the way he works at Gematria is he calms you down. You know, there's so much stress right now, but when you hear Tom talk about all these numbers and you're like, oh, there is a higher power in control right now. It's like Q says, at what point this is not coincidence anymore? There's too many coincidences for it to be a coincidence, right?
Exactly.
God is in control, and he's talking to us, and people like Tom can translate it. So yeah, go on. The March the 4th stuff was pretty incredible, though, that you found.
Yeah, thanks, Brice. So one of the figures that Anna just mentioned, she said 107. So 107 is a guy out in the community, but the number 107 is the plural version of Trump. So Trump is 88. When you add it up, TRUMP, 20, 18, 21, 13, 16 comes to 88. That's the key. If you know that, you can work all of this out. But then the plural version of Trump is Trumps, which comes to 107. 107 comes to currency, comes to quantum, comes to Aquarius, it comes to military, comes to 20. We just came out of 2020. Comes to Superman. And President Trump likes to use popular culture, real history, popular culture, everything. He uses all of these things to his advantage. The other thing about 2020, so if we said, let's meet tonight on David's channel, we'll meet at 2000 hours in the evening, that would be 8 p.m. on the 12-hour clock. So when we were in 2020, we were actually in 88 as well, which is 88, which is Trump. So we were in the year of Trump, 88. But also 2020, just the word 20 comes to 107. So whichever way you want to skin it, we were definitely in Trump's year last year, and we're continuing to go into it now. So yeah, going to what Brice said about 185. So if you do Donald John Trump, so Donald comes to 50, which comes to America. It comes to Paul. I've mentioned my cousin Paul. Also my grandmother Eileen, she passed, my dear Eileen, but that adds up to 50. So I have these personal markers as well, but also the big ones that I can share on a global basis. So America and Donald both come to 50. John, his middle name, comes to 47. 47 is a mirror reflection of 74, which is Jesus. We've already established. It's also Marin as well. So it's Anna's last name. And so that's what makes her smile. But London, so 74 and Muhammad, Messiah, etc. But 47, go back, so 74 back to 47 is John. John is also atomic silver. So 47 is atomic silver. And there's a lot of gold and silver going on with this. And President Trump has been moving that all around with the military, etc. And this great operation that they've been running. 47 comes to Time as well. So whenever you see Time magazine, you're also seeing John, you're also seeing atomic silver. France, the country France is 47. Then you go on to Trump. So Trump is 88. I already mentioned before, Scotland is 88. So another country on the board is Scotland, 88. Interesting enough, at the top of England is Scotland. Below, the country of England comes to 57, which actually comes to Tesla, which comes to George. Hello, George. Comes to the moon, or it comes to moon, which we've got a lovely half moon right now. My grandparents, again, their last name was Wood. Wood comes to 57. Mary, Jesus' mother, comes to 57. So anyway, you've got Trump and you've got Tesla. So I thought that's quite interesting to have those two, Scotland and England. But going back to Trump, so 88, the color purple comes to 88. So when you think about it, President Trump, he initially was a Democrat, but he's a Republican president. But really, it's we know that both sides of one more than the other, but both are contaminated. And he's talking about a new republic, a new way of doing things, Jasara Nasara. But even when you blend blue and red and you blend them together, what color do you get?
Purple.
You get purple. Purple is 88, which is Trump. So everywhere on the board, this is all going on. Another one we've spoken before about, Brice is Mormon, and we did a whole thing last week about that. And Trump was Mormon, etc. But anyway, that's another conversation. But so that comes to 88. The luxury food truffle comes to 88. The word download comes to 88. So when I was listening to the voice of listening to President Trump's voice, literally I was getting a download from him. It was permeating into me and waking up my soul, my consciousness, and probably helping me remember something that I'd forgotten, until the time of the awake. The other thing about awake or clock, alarm comes to 45. President Trump was the 45th president, so he literally was the alarm clock. He was the alarm to wake everyone up. But anyway, when you add all those together, so you've got Donald 50, John 47, Trump 88, comes to 185. 185, as you've just said, Brice, comes to the 4th of March. So the is 33, which is also Don, which is also Gate. Fourth, F-O-R-U-T-H, comes to 88. The word for comes to 60, but when you add a TH to it, it takes it to 88. So the 4th of is 21, and then March is 43. It's also wife, it's also Mark. But you add them all together, and it comes to 185. So perhaps the old Constitution, as we're hearing in the community, it was on the 4th of March, not the 20th of January. So all the old guard is coming down. We were told by Q that there would be a time where President Trump would step down, that there would be up to 120 days for Nasara to be established. There were optics on it back around the 2nd or 3rd of November. So when the election took place, I think it was the 2nd of November, he did I think it was an executive order. And I can't remember the name of it, but it basically alluded to possibly a soft disclosure on Nasara.
Yes.
The other thing with that is the Facebook, before he got taken down on Twitter, but the Facebook title of him at that time, which changed from sort of Donald Trump, the president of the US, it was changed to President Trump, political candidate. So that looked like there was a soft step down then, which would come in line with the 128 days. And there was a lady, I still need to get in touch with her, Jo Hull, that was on Charlie Ward's show. She discovered this and decoded it brilliantly. And I did a couple of follow-on episodes with her, but she did amazing. So if you're listening, Joe, that's just amazing work. So it's looking like it could be then. We're hearing others saying that we'll go on to April or April Fool's Day or maybe further. Who knows? But we do know the 4th of March comes to 185. Some other ones that are really interesting with that is World Trade Center comes to 185. So if you think back then, the dark hats were onto President Trump even back in 2001. And maybe there'll be a reversal on that in terms of, I think there will be. The City of London comes to 185 as well. Superstition Mountain out in Arizona near Scottsdale, where apparently Q operate out of. So Simon Parks has said. The mountain there, Superstition comes to 185, Donald John Trump. The word mountain comes to 107, which is Trump's. So you've got the Donald John Trump's, Superstition Mountain. You've got that all going on. There's a whole plethora of other. Oh, another one. So the Book of Revelation, right at the end of the Bible in Christianity, you've got the Book of Revelation. Revelation comes to 121, which is a very important name on the board, or number on the board. But the Book of Revelation, again, comes to 185. And it's in those books in Revelation and other other scriptures as Mormon and other thoughts talking about the Trump of the last days. He is the Trump. His name's on the tin. The Trump of the last days, and the Book of Revelation comes to 185, Donald John Trump. So you've got these going on. I mean, another one is the words. If you just say Donald Trump, that comes to 138. 138 comes to Dome of the Rock. So he's done the Abraham Accord, where he self-deprecatingly alluded to him being Abraham, and when he said, I wanted to call it the Donald John Trump Accord, but the press wouldn't let me, so I called it the Abraham Accord. And I sensed what he was going to say. I could see the joke coming out before he said it, because it was perfect. So I believe he's been at all these big characters throughout time. That's my understanding of it with the numbers, and for me, and other people may have different thoughts, and that's totally fine as well. But that's my understanding of the things I see with the numbers. But another one, so 138 comes to Donald Trump, but it also comes to the Savior. So you've got that happening. Also, revaluation. So the whole thing of the revaluation of the currency, revaluation comes to 138, Donald Trump. Again, you've got the main river going right through London is called the River Thames. River comes to 72, which is money, which is first, America first. Monday, the day Monday, which is
And
happening
72,
on
I'm
the
sorry,
22nd,
Tom.
comes to 72,
Yeah,
Anna?
and Tom, you always mention that we have to take the numbers and mirror the numbers. So 72 comes to Thames. Is that it? Is that you were saying?
No, Thames.
No.
So River Thames
Because
comes to
what
138. So
what I want to say is that you mentioned the 72, and we have the 72 mirror is 27. It comes to
yes,
kingship,
comes
right?
to the number for
And
kingship. Yeah, it also comes to JFK. So 27
yes,
comes to
so
red. It comes to JFK.
so we are reverting time. We are reverting facts. We are remember all this talk that we always take. This is all important. The Gematria is important as an instrument for us to understand in a higher perspective what is going on with our lives. So because all this knowledge, it's our knowledge. Okay, we already knew this before, longer before, but somehow it was like switched off from us. And what we need to do is try to relearn how to read and relearn to read the universe. And some
It's a
people,
language. It's another
yeah,
language.
it's a
That's what it is.
language.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's not only about seeing what you are seeing in front of you, but also mirroring, having the perspective, changing and trying to connect different perspectives and have the higher view. This is expanding the consciousness that people say. This is expanding knowledge. This is geopolitics right now, geopolitics. We are not talking about politics and economics and health. No, we are talking about one stuff, and it's human beings alive. That's how I see this current situation. And Tom has been a huge asset in my understanding of all of this because of him. Of course, he's a very nice gentleman to talk to, and also because he has this knowledge of decoding talks. We can check on the length of a video. How long is the video? What is the point that is said? That's that word. And
Yes.
some people, as we practice, somehow as we practice the Gematria, okay, as we practice, we kind of engage in this dance with the universe, right, Tom?
Yes, we do. The universe is downloading all of this information. This is the Great
Yes.
Awakening. So even the Great Awakening comes to 169, which comes to Trump Tower, comes to Tiffany Trump. It comes to the Royal Crest. It actually comes to one of the ways you can say my name, Thomas Bushnell. You said earlier, Brice, about the stock market. So stock market crash comes to 185 as well, which is Donald John Trump again.
Yeah.
If you say the stock market comes to 169, which is Trump Tower, etc. Another thing that to look out for is in the Bible, I think it's 7 trumpets. I think it's 7.
Yes.
There's maybe a few other numbers of trumpets, but I'm pretty sure there's one which is 7. And you've got 7 Trumps. You've got Melania, you've got Donald, and you've got the 5 children. And I've noticed that there's 5 in my thoughts with the numbers. There's 5 key places in Manhattan plus New Jersey. That being Trump Tower, the Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building, One World Trade Center, the New York Stock Exchange, the New Yorker Hotel where Nikola Tesla used to live, and then across the water, which is the symbol of New York, but technically just across the water in New Jersey, is the Statue of Liberty, where this whole thing started for me. And I think there's going to be something, well, just keep an eye out for that. Yeah, it's the numbers are incredible. I mean, things like, you had the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago, and we did a piece on that. But for David's listeners, Super Bowl comes to 131, which comes to John F. Kennedy. At the end of Back to the Future 3, Back to the Future, all the Back to the Future films are all about currently right now. If you remember the first episode of Back to the Future, you have to travel at 88 miles per hour. Why 88?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's Trump. You have to create 1.21 gigawatts of power. Gigawatts, the way they spell it in the film, comes to 124, which comes to New Jersey, which comes to Michael Jackson. Point is 74. President Trump is the king of pointing. 121 comes to Revelation. 121 comes to Golden, Jubilee. Golden is 57. We've spoken about 57 being Tesla. Jubilee comes to 64. Jubilee is American. Jubilee is Tenet. Jubilee 64 is Zion, not Zionists, but Zion, pure in heart. It's a good word originally. Israel 64 again. President Trump moved everything back to Jerusalem, the embassy, and you've got Dome of the Rock there 138, which is Donald Trump again. So all of these things happening. The other thing about the sport, American football, so it was the 55th Super Bowl. 55 comes to Melania. So you add Melania's name, it's 55. The picture of me and Ivanka in Manhattan, just to the side of Ivanka, there's actually a number 55 that I didn't see for a long, long time because you have to zoom in on it, but it's like a boutique office just behind us. And that's 55 is Melania. 55 is also JFK Jr. if you spell JR Jr. So JFK is 27 plus JR, which is 28, which is man. Add them together, comes to 55. 55 comes to heaven. Heaven plus earth. Earth is 52. Earth plus heaven. 52 plus 55 comes to 107. Again, Trump's Aquarius is 107. We're in the age of Aquarius right now. American football. American comes to 64, like I just said. It's Jubilee. It's Israel. But then football comes to 83. 83 comes to Mount. It comes to prayer. It comes to Caviezel, the great actor that's had the film airing with 107 just this weekend, or tomorrow. And Sound of Freedom, I want to mention that in regards to David, because some of his numbers tie up with that. So you can just see how it continues. And American football add them together. 64 plus 83 comes to 147, which is Trump card. Or sorry, the Trump card, I should say. It just goes on and on. Michael Pompeo comes to 131. John F. Kennedy comes to 131, comes to Super Bowl. They played it in the Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, in Florida. Raymond, if I remember rightly, Tampa, I think, comes to 55 as well. But Raymond comes to 90. James comes to 48. 48 also comes to my name, Tom. It also comes to Zim. You add them together, 90 plus 48 comes to 138, Donald Trump. So it's the Donald Trump Stadium. Stadium comes to 87, which is Truth, which is Stella, which is my dear friend Al Pasoni, who does these videos with us. 87 is Project, this huge global galactic project that's been the Q plan. The projects have been in the works for ages. So you see them all over the place, and the newspapers are great sources of it. I'll show one to you guys. Actually, I prepared one just before, so I literally
This is
just
the
did
only
it
thing newspapers are good for nowadays.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't read the news. I don't watch the TV, but I do look at them for numbers. So, you know.
Tom,
you'll like this one because this is, yeah.
Tom, have you already decoded David Zublick's Gematria? For us to oh yeah,
so
have you?
So
Okay.
we can do that in a second. So, here, okay. So this I got this afternoon, just an hour or two before we came on air. So I was just doing it just before I logged in. I thought this will be fun. This will be a real-time example I can show David and his viewers about what all this is. So here, David, you see this here. Can you hang on? Can you read that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that up? Is that okay? What does it say?
Yep.
Toodle
Pip.
pip. Can't see.
Toodle pip.
Toodle pip.
Yeah.
Doodle, yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of a strange phrase. It's to do with, they put it there. That's Meghan and Harry at the back of their heads there. Anyway, so we've got the tablet. Yeah, suppose. Anyway, but Toodle pip, I was like, oh, that's a good one. So what is this? So this is today's newspaper. Toodle comes to 71. Okay, 71 is temple. It's snow. It's smart. It's,
smart is good. Smart is good.
Lady Diana. Lady Diana is 71 if you add them together. But it's also Psych. So it's the first part of my channel, Psych.Club. You can see it here, Psych. P-S-Y-C-H comes to 71. Pip. I'll show it again. So now you're getting a flavour for it. So hang on. Yeah. Is that okay? Can you see that? Pip.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Pip, P-I-P, comes to 41. 41 comes to King, it comes to Alien, it comes to USA, it comes to, if you do 20 plus 21, 2021, comes to 41. And it also comes to my initials, so TSB. So I noticed this, it's like, okay, it's got my channel, Psych, and it's also got my initials. Anyway, you add them together, it comes to 112. 112 comes to victory. Okay, so we're being told it's like a knock on the five-dimensional wardrobe bookcase or now the newspapers. But 112 comes to victory. Also, it comes to our dear friend Charles Ward. So this is all kind of happening. It's like there's another one here. I mean, this is the back page. So.
But Tom, do you think this is Tom?
Just one second. Let me finish this 1 second. Okay. So this is the back page, David. Can you see that?
All right. Yep. It's about revenge. It's not about revenge.
Not about revenge.
Not about revenge. And also, interestingly enough, you see at the back page, it's the sport page. Okay.
Yes.
So the word sport for viewers back home, the word sport also comes to Trump. Comes to 88. So President Trump is always on the back pages of the newspapers in sport. He loves sports. He's a gamer, casinos, but sports. He loves sports. You know, you've seen famous pictures of him with a baseball bat. And he's like, I'm the Batman. You know, you've got all that happening. Yeah. That's why I invited him to this soccer fundraiser in Manhattan. I was like, I've always wanted to meet President Trump. I've seen him speak live in London, but I was about 40, 50 yards from him in the audience. But I did get to meet Ivanka, and I'm sure I've met him in other lives. But in this one, I don't consciously recognize him meeting him as Donald Trump. But these are the numbers on this, which again are really enjoyable. Okay, so let me pull that up. So it's not about revenge, right? Okay, the word "it's" comes to 48, which comes to Zim. So "it's" is IT apostrophe S. It comes to Tom as well. 48 comes to Tom. Not NOT comes to 49, which is crash. It's also bolt. It's also XLM. It's also the word yes. But you add those two together, and it's the first line. So you add them together. It's not. Then it comes to 97, which is Kennedy's. It also comes to crypto, and it also comes to Thursday, the day Thursday. The word about comes to 59. Now, I can show you a picture of this. I was in I was in Regent's Park today. Regent's comes to 88, which is my local park, but Regent's is like it's Trump Park. Park comes to 46. It's the year President Trump was born. It's the name Bobby, as in Bobby Kennedy. I get orbs appearing about Bobby. 46 is atomic platinum. Palladium, I should say. It's also the age President John F. Kennedy was in 63. Anyway, Trump Park. But in there, you've got London Zoo, which is a world famous zoo. But I can always cycle past the back of it and see. And they've got camels there all the time. Camel comes to 34, which is DJT, 1, Neo. But also, so it comes out very rarely, but the tiger came out today because the temperature was a lot warmer. It felt like a nice spring day today because it's been freezing and dark and dreary, but I was wearing shorts today. It was so nice. But tiger comes to 59. And there's a reference to a tiger in Christopher Nolan's film Tenet, which came out in the summer, which is all about right now. But they make reference to tiger. Kenneth Branagh, who I've actually met, makes reference to a tiger. But tiger comes to 59, which is Joker card. Okay, and I literally saw the tiger an hour before I took this photograph of the newspaper. But you go further, the word revenge comes to 76, which comes to Ripple, comes to Sydney, comes to Thomas, my first name. It also comes to Emmett, as in Doc Emmett Brown from the Back to the Future films. Also, I should say, when you say Emmett Brown, so Emmett comes to 76, Brown comes to 72, which is money, which is Monday. We add them together, that comes to 148, which is Donald J. Trump. So Emmett Brown is Donald J. Trump, hence he's got a time machine. And, you've got all that going on. But then you take it further. So we got to about revenge. Right, that comes to 232, okay? So it's not about revenge, comes to 232. That comes to a few things. The Dominion servers comes to never give up, the Christ Millennium, and also the District of Columbia. But there's a book, Trump Never Give Up. Let me find that for you. It's one of his books. He wrote Art of the Deal, but also he wrote Never Give Up. Here it is. So his book, Trump Never Give Up. Can you read that?
Yeah.
Comes to
Never Give Up.
232. Yeah. Another reference for that, a possible reference, is Princess Diana comes to 132. Okay. Diana comes to 29, which is on. Princess comes to 103, which is also JFK's age. JFK 103. Hopefully he's still alive. I like to think he is. I've heard different things in the community, but even the thing that he was alive and then he wasn't, I don't know, it could be pointing, hey, look who's here. But we'll see what happens. But I've had good orbs about that with JFK, Bobby, and Junior. So perhaps,
it'd be great if they were all alive.
Maybe 1-3. Sorry.
I said it'd be great if they're all alive. Yeah.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah,
So,
it would be.
And if you got a time machine, you could go back and do that. But if you got so 232 could perhaps comes to Wednesday plus Princess Diana. Princess Diana is 132. Wednesday is 100. So perhaps on a Wednesday, maybe we might see Princess Diana. There's a lot of numbers that point to that with her. So we'll see. But I thought that was interesting. The 232. It comes to a lot of important, interesting things.
Can we go back to, because 76, when you said that in our first time together, it like sent shivers down my spine. And for so that to me is such an incredible, like, shows the power of Gematria for the Americans watching and for the people who aren't from America. 1776 was the American Revolution. That's when we said our birthday. So 76 is Ripple, and 17 is Q. So in my opinion, this whole Great Awakening actually started then. It started, I've said that on David's show before, I feel like the American Revolution started in 1776 and it hasn't actually ended yet. And so at that point in 1776, this ripple went out across the world.
It's the ripple effect.
Well, here's something else too. The year that the
76 is 93 Bushnell floaters, Kingship. Sorry, David,
Oh, no, that's okay. I was just thinking of something else. We were talking about the United States of America Corporation, or the act of the District of Columbia Act of 1871, If you add 1871 together, you come to 17, which is the Q number as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
1871, you say, yeah?
1871, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So 9 plus 8, yeah, it's Q. And then also 1871, that would be 89. Yeah, 89 comes to virus actually, but
Yeah.
there's also a good side to it because they needed that to cleanse the Palladium, and it's a big stage, it's a big play that we're watching. But Palladium comes to 89.
And Tom, on the back page of this newspaper that you were showing, it's not about revenge. This is Q. This is very much Q. Q is always about they are always saying it's not about revenge. We are coming for justice, right? It's not about revenge. So loud and clear. 55, loud and clear. Military,
55,
military codes, loud and clear. And Brazil code, country code. So
55,
55, yes.
And I will say too, as we all are living in like frustration where our MSM isn't giving us the real news, it doesn't matter because we have the real news in the Gematria. And so like when you're, go ahead, sorry.
Just at the end of what you say, Brice, just say, tell me about MSM. And
MSM.
Just after you finish what you're, but
okay.
You finish your, but just in case I think.
Okay,
I want to talk about MSM. Okay.
Well, it was because we sit around, we think, oh, nothing's happening because we're not seeing it happen, but it actually is happening. And the Gematria God is telling us that, and President Trump was telling us that. The reason why he didn't misspell things on purpose, like he did it on purpose. It wasn't like he was just an idiot and misspelled something. He did it on purpose to tell us the real news, so that people like Tom would be like, wait a minute, so we can't. It's like Sean Stone says, once you see the trick, they can't trick you anymore. And so when we get stressed out about what's happening in the world, but because of MSM not telling us the truth, we know they're lying. We don't need them anymore. Like what Tom did, he went and took a screenshot of the headliners and came home and worked it out.
Yeah.
No, that's the way for us. Another way for us to talk to God. That's why whenever I hear Tom, I always feel so much better because I'm like, oh my God, it's all going to be okay. Like even these movies that Hollywood, has been controlled by more nefarious people, but in these movies, you see the divinity, you see the God wing. Like it's all okay. It's all God's got this. It's all under control. So anyway, go on with MSM, Tom.
Yeah, so MSM. So you hit on a good point, Brice. I haven't spoken about this for ages, but I think I did it with Charlie in the summer. But MSM. So I remember when President Trump was speaking from the White House, and he did it a few times, but there was a time when he specifically mentioned MS-13 gangs.
Oh.
Now, if you do MS-13, M is the 13th letter, so also MS-13 also equates to MSM. And he was saying they're the worst and they're cruel and they do all this nasty stuff. And I was like, wow,
how true is that?
Just went right through them, Yeah.
See, like Gematria is like he's telling you the truth. I've never heard that, Tom. That's unbelievable. It becomes, like I said, it comes to a point where it's not coincidence anymore. It's just not. Now, so all four of us come from a Christian background. I know Anna's Catholic. I know, David, you grew up Catholic, but you go to a Protestant church now. I grew up Presbyterian. Tom grew up Mormon. And we've talked a little bit about the Gospels. Is there anything from the Gospels?
I don't know now, but I know all the doctrine. I haven't been for 10 years, but they're good, great people, the congregation, But anyway, we spoke about that before,
Yeah, we have an episode where we broke down the Book of Mormon and some other stuff with America and numbers, and it was pretty.
That's another one I forgot. 185 Book of Mormon and the Book of Mormon and the Salt Lake Temple. I forgot to mention those. You were bringing that up, Brice. Yeah.
And for those that watch David's show, we talked about, obviously, because we're on David's show, we talked about Qumran with the Dead Sea Scrolls, and that there's a connection between, if y'all remember from that episode, the salt of the Dead Sea, there's a correlation geographically between Salt Lake City and the Dead Sea. And then you look at the numbers for America, and that the Book of Mormon comes from America potentially being the promised land. What was the American number again? Like you start to see all these web.
Yeah.
It's like when you see just these numbers, and it's just telling you.
American is 64. Israel, yeah.
Yeah, with Israel, American Israel, same number, same. So it's unbelievable, and like that adds another layer because on David's channel we are going through all, or we're trying to go through all the. We have 777 books to do, so in my next life we finish the missing gospel.
We'll both be in our late 90s, and we'll be doing this show. And when I go, Brice will continue for me. She'll be giving the chance.
But we will have the med beds. Med beds.
Yeah.
Don't forget it.
We still got 500 more books.
But no joke. But guys, we are joking. But this is so beautiful to watch and to participate, because what we are energy, and we have a beautiful land. We are right now, but we flow along in this energy. Okay, we have many bodies in us, and we have ley lines. As we have ley lines in our bodies, we have ley lines in the world surrounding the planet. So we are changing. These ley lines are being not more on the bad side, on the dark side control. We are moving along with the light and moving to a much better, much higher dimension, a much subtle place.
Jubilee.
So that's why we are trying to relearn the language that we have to speak, and and through Gematria, I do believe that we use Gematria to move, as I said, to move the dance, to move along with the dance, and to feel the surroundings, and to feel like what is, because all this talk about time and space, this is we know it doesn't exist, right? Time and space.
Yeah.
It's something old. This is old. We are moving to a new situation. I don't know how to put it. A new dimension, a new time of, a new way of living. That because of the ley lines are now clean, or getting cleaned, we can understand the numbers that comes from now from Tom, but probably like Michelangelo,
Yeah.
Da Vinci, they all knew about it.
Yeah, the Jewish. When I was looking up some, just quickly, like reading some stuff, it was I think it was the Hebrews, like way back. We're talking like we're studying the lost text of the Bible, like. They knew, they wrote this specifically. And it's like, I know Tom said once, I saw you, I think it was Simon Parks actually, which you and David have Simon in common, where Simon misspoke a word. He misspoke someone's name, and you even said, even when someone misspeaks,
it was my grandfather's name. He came up, he blended Sidney Powell with Lynn Wood, and he said Sidney Wood, and that's my grandfather's name. And he said it on a time point. I can't remember the time point, but it was to do with my name, Bushnell, as well. It was all tied in, and that's how this works. This is how the beauty of the higher dimensions. That's why I get orbs on certain points, and then I'll get a new good friend, Simon, blending the two names of Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood, and comes up with Sidney Wood, my grandfather. It happens all the time. It happens all the time.
Incredible.
And it just shows you again that none of this is an accident. There is a higher power in control. We're gonna be okay. And this Gematria is like a roadmap. It's like a GPS. I mean, you even did the decode for GameStop in February. Wasn't there like were they the same number, GameStop in February? So we had the GameStop issue.
Yeah. So 96 is GameStop, happened at the end of January. Then we're going into the month of GameStop, which is February 96. Comes to Spaceship, comes to Mel Gibson, comes to Kushner, a few things. So it's like, okay, they gave us a preview of GameStop. Let's go into the month of GameStop.
And that's the beautiful thing about Gematria. Even if we're not really seeing anything on the TV, we know that excuse my language, but shit's happening. We know that the game is stopping. The game is stopping for and so this is why Tom, it's like so awesome to listen to him, because all of a sudden you just relax, because you're like, wow, this has all been pre-planned. You think about all this Gematria, how even before we were born, these equations, numbers were working to build out this story, this timeline, and now we're able to read the script basically. And it's just unbelievable. And the more I listen to Tom, the more it starts to really sink in what all this says. And we even brought up that if you follow the planetary stuff, Mercury is in retrograde right now, which is also another GameStop. It's also whenever Mercury goes retrograde, things shift over. As you said brilliantly, it's the changing of the guard, which can be frustrating because our technology can act up, all that kind of stuff. But whatever the planet of Mercury starts to go behind, it messes with some of that stuff. My car battery died the other day. But as far as like the bigger picture, projects come to an end, things switch over. So you see all these things starting to come together and you're like, wow, God is totally in control right now.
And Brice, just to as you mentioned, Mercury and retrograde Mercury, that's why this week we had many news on the royal family.
Yeah. The royal family is coming up big time right now. We saw that Toodle Pip was for Meghan and Harry.
Yeah, but
aren't they all?
Bird is Toodle Pip, you know?
Right, exactly.
Birds, Toodle Pip, like, I don't even have heard that, you know?
In America, being a black girl by, you know, so.
And they are, and the
even
picture, they are.
Really? I mean, I've heard Toodle, like.
Toodle.
Toodle by, or, I don't know, but anyway, Toodle Pip.
Toodaloo, we would say here, but it's like, where are these worlds? You had another you had another very strange headline in the newspaper from England that it was like, where did this headline even come from? And then you're like, well, it's Gematria. It's because it's not even about the words. We're looking at the numbers and what the hidden meaning is. I mean, it's like the more, and I've said this with David before, you know, in the yoga practice, we talk about how God, you know, God is not human. The entity of God is not human. And so therefore man can't possibly totally understand God because we are stuck in our lives. We're stuck in a mortal mind. But when you look at the Gematria and you start going, whoa, like this, the magnitude of divinity is just so powerful. To be able to do all this is just unbelievable. Like it's unbelievable how, and that means how special each of us are and how beautiful. And the earth, isn't earth and heart the same? The same number as for earth and heart?
Yeah, earth and heart are the same. Bowl, as in Super Bowl, is the same. Add heaven and plus earth comes to trumps, you know, 107. I forgot to mention actually that second headline I showed you, the one that came to 232, and the one about Trump, Never Give Up, his book, that also comes to.
It's not about revenge. It's not about revenge.
That part. But if you do. Never Give Up. So you had Trump, Never Give Up comes to 232, which is, it's not about revenge. But then I looked at just the name of the book without the title Trump. So Never Give Up comes to 144, which is Digital Soldier. So, you know, again, it's right there. So it's Trump, Digital Soldier, 232 or 144. And 144, you know, you've got the 144,000, you've got all of that going on. But Digital Soldier, 144, you know, and Never Give Up, his book, 144. So, you know, there's
telling us
much with it.
Soldiers, so what was David's Gematria?
So David's numbers, I like to call it Trumpology as well. That's another hashtag. I've seen it out there before and things, but I quite like to call it Trumpology because, so David comes to 40. Okay, and again, that if you think of the year we just came out of, 2020, 220s comes to 40. So 2020, you've got Trump's military, 107, 107, 20 comes to 107. Trump's military, 2020, or Trump's currency or quantum currency, they all come up to 2020. But if you do, if you do the 12-hour clock comes to 88. So David has 2020 and 88 in it because it's 40. It's adding the two 20s together. But then Zublick comes to David. Where are you from? Can I ask where are you from originally?
United States, but my family was Polish. Poland.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I meant like what part of the U.S. Like what state?
Oh, I'm in Michigan. I'm in the Midwestern part of the country.
Okay. Michigan.
And were you born in a city or state in the U.S. or Poland?
No, I was born here.
What can I ask? What city or state?
Detroit.
Detroit. Okay, so Detroit, Michigan. Okay. The reason I was asking that is because Zublick comes to 84. Maybe we should do the numbers on Detroit. I don't think I've ever done those, actually. We could do that. Is that DETROIT? Is that right?
OIT. Yep.
Okay. So Zublick comes to 84. 84 comes to Sunday, comes to Arizona. It comes to million. It comes to 40. If you add those two together, it comes to 124. We've already mentioned one of the values, talked about gigawatts, the way they spell gigawatts about 3 different ways in Back to the Future. But if you do it the way they used it in the film in the end, GIGOWATTS, gigawatts, comes to 124, which comes to New Jersey, which is a key part. It's got the Statue of Liberty. Interesting enough, when you do the numbers on
My
Statue
wife
of
is
Liberty,
from New Jersey.
Oh, you see?
There you
Yeah.
go. You see how this all starts to happen.
Yeah.
So
And comes to Michael Jackson too.
comes to Michael Jackson too as well. Yeah.
Yes.
And so if you do the Statue of Liberty also comes to Statue of POTUS, because Liberty is 91 and POTUS is 91, and it's there just technically across the water, and it's the focal point of where I started to receive the numbers on that trip, on that water bit between One World Trade Center and Statue of Liberty in Staten Island. And your wife is from New Jersey, so
Yes.
But then if you take it further, so I looked at your brand, your company. So Dark Outpost. So Dark comes to 34, which is 1, which is Neo. It's also DJT. So you've got the whole Dark Knight series, the Batman films, and that's all about President Trump. Christopher Nolan is a white hat director, and I believe he's probably family connection with President Trump and POTUS. I actually think he's POTUS' son. That's my call, but I don't know. But that's what I think he could be. I think he is. But to illustrate this, so the Dark Knight Rises, when they use Wayne Tower, they actually use Trump Tower, because the last one was actually filmed in Manhattan in New York. The one before was in Chicago, and then the other one was kind of a created virtual reality set. And I think it might have been Chicago, but it was. But you've got the other thing as well going on. You've got Trump Tower, and then you've also got Batman, Bruce Wayne, Wayne Tower. So you've got Wayne Tower, Trump Tower. You've got Wayne's World, Trump's World. And apparently, after I spoke to David Rodriguez earlier this week, apparently there's lots of adverts right now in the US featuring Wayne's World again. And he said they're everywhere. Yeah. He saw them. He said they're everywhere. And so we're in Trump. I've said months ago with Charlie, we're in Trump's world. You know, everything is all pointing to this. So the Dark Knight, DJT, Knight comes to Smith as well. You've got the whole thing with Joseph Smith. You do Smiths. Smiths is plural of 69. Takes you to 88 again. But anyway, that being said, the other thing as well, Batman and Robin. So Batman comes to 51, which comes to Michael. Robin comes to 58, which comes to Ivanka, comes to Star, comes to XRP. If you add Batman plus Robin, 51 plus 58, takes you to 107 again, which is Trump's. So Nasara plus Chisara comes to Batman plus Robin plus Nasara plus Chisara, 107 Trump's. So that's, again, you can see all of this, how this is working. But your company, so Dark Outpost, so Outpost comes to 126. 126 comes to atomic silver and atomic gold. So atomic silver is 47, as we said at the beginning of our episode. 79 comes to atomic gold, which comes to William. All right, there's Prince William, but William is a good name for, my brother's middle name is William. But also it's Lemuria, which my good friend, recent good friend, Huna Flash taught me about Lemuria, way back. I didn't know much about Lemuria, but that comes to 79. Also, the word super comes to 79, and also the word merry, like Merry Christmas, comes to 79. But 126 comes to Zublick. Comes to Outpost. And then if you put those together, you get 160. Now 160, really, this is how this works as well. So 107. It was Charlie announced this, that 107 was doing a private screening of the film Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom is based on a real story, a real life episodes. It's played by the star of the show is the actor Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus of Nazareth. Oh, Jesus of Nazareth comes to 188, which comes to 1 times 88 again is Trump. In England, there was a newspaper headline just on the front page of the Telegraph. No other papers featured it, but the Telegraph did. And it looked like a Back to the Future picture when the future changes. And it was a picture. Let me pull it up. I'll show you. There was a picture of President Trump, and it said just simply Trump acquitted. Trump acquitted comes to 188, which is Jesus of Nazareth again. But there was a nice picture of him. What's that, Brice?
That's a God wink.
I know, it's a total God wink. There you go. Can you see that?
Yep.
Is that all right?
Trump acquitted.
Trump acquitted. So that was the only look. You see, it's like they're all thinking he's going to get impeached, and it's like da 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 da. And from my Trump acquitted. You see, but 188 comes to Jesus of Nazareth, and Jim Caviezel played Jesus of Nazareth in Passion of the Christ, which was directed by Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson comes to 96. We're in February right now, which comes to 96, which comes to GameStop. Interestingly enough, I looked at the trailer. I put it on one of my videos, but I looked at the trailer that's featured, the main trailer for Sound of Freedom. YouTube does this a lot, but this is a good. This is the numbers working. Okay. Sometimes you'll click on a video. It could be your video, David. It could be Anna's. It could be Brice. It could be mine. It could be this one. And you'll upload it, and it will be a certain length. And then when you actually click the thumbnail, sometimes it's a second longer in length. So when you click Sound of Freedom, it's 222. 222 takes place on Monday, but actually when you click it, it's 221. 221 comes to The Greatest Showman, and I think we're going to see something in reference to that soon with President Trump, The Greatest Showman. But we've been told by Q to follow the twos, 222. My birthday and the Super Bowl date, so February the 7th and February the 15th, both come to 222. But we've got a third 222, which is this one, Monday 2/22. But when you click through, like I said, it comes to 221, and that's the evening that this private screening of Sound of Freedom with 107 and Jim Caviezel is going to be aired. So again, this is all this. They didn't know that when they put that together, but that's the reality of it. But the reason I mentioned Sound of Freedom, as well as it being a great film, and it talks about it's a guy called Tim Ballard, who is actually he's a Mormon. Mormon is 88 Trump, but he's saving children. He's doing kind of like a mini, I guess. You got the military, Trump's military doing all that, but he's got a group, I guess a foundation, and they go and do those things. They help the children. But the reason I mention it is because it comes to Sound of Freedom comes to 160, which comes to Dark Outpost, and so I worked out the numbers on Sound of Freedom earlier today, and then I worked out yours, David, and they come, they're the same. So I was like, that's just another way that the numbers reveal themselves. You'll quite often get one number, and then you work out another number, not long after, and it's the same one. It's like, oh wow, there you go. So. But yes, some great values there, David.
Well, I hate to say this, but we just ran flat out of time here. We've got to do this again. There's not enough time to cover this in this one interview. So I'm hoping we can get together for a second roundtable. Maybe we'll go a little longer next time. But this was unbelievable. I was thinking about something else real quick before we wrap it up, and that's the fact that what's one of the most important books in the Bible, not one of the missing books of the Bible, the one that's included in the Torah, which is the book of Numbers, which takes you from the Israelites being being enslaved all the way to the Exodus, which is their freedom. Mm-hmm. What are we talking about now? That's
Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought about that, David. That's awesome.
88 Trump.
Exodus is 88.
Yeah. So we've got to do this. We've got to do this.
Comes to Kronos, but comes to Manhattan.
Yeah. We'll have to do this
Okay,
again.
yeah,
I really want
do
to.
the
It
book
has
on-
been,
book on numbers.
this has been such a pleasure. So I want to, again, Tom, thank you for being with us on this broadcast. Anna, you chimed in a few
Thank you,
times
David.
there. I want to hear more from you. I'm going to get you on the program separately, Anna, with your permission. I'll
Thank
get in
you.
touch with you. We'll set up an interview. And of course, Brice Watson of Esoteric Atlanta.
Now, I want to say too, both Anna and Tom have both opened up Patreons as well to support their work.
Please.
Because Tom, I mean, it takes a lot of work to decode this. So if you guys are interested, you want to help support Tom and Anna, that information is out there as well. And I would love to do a roundtable again. Let's plan it for sure.
Yes, and you want to mention your Patreon account so that we can, if people want to contribute. How about you, Anna, first?
Oh, I have to know my Patreon right now. It's patreon.com. Is that it? /ACMG28. Yes.
Okay, make sure you email that to me, okay? And
Sure.
I'll make sure
I will.
that we
Thank
mention
you.
it. And the next time we have you on, we will scroll along the bottom of the screen both of your Patreon accounts, okay?
Thank you.
Everybody. In fact, I think, Brice, you have one too, do you not?
I do have one, yeah.
Well, you gotta scroll your Patreon account down, and Tom will do that for you as well, okay?
Thank you. Yeah, I've got one as well, Dave. And we'll do it for you as well, likewise.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. Well, we'll do this again. I want to thank all of you for being with us tonight on this special broadcast, and thank you all.